Hello, everybody. Today, Tracy Duez is back on the podcast, and we're going to talk about the importance of wanting more in life and how it can lead to personal growth and fulfillment. She's going to share her insights on why many people struggle to identify their wants and how to overcome this belief that wanting is selfish, and basically how it all ties back to project management and being a good leader. Let's get started.
Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business. Write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Cesar Abaid.
Learn from the experts. Think outside the box. Have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Hello, Tracy, my friend. How are you?
I'm terrific, Cesar. Thanks again for, chatting with me here.
Always nice to have you. And we should disclose that you and I talk on a regular basis. I'm not a coaching client of yours, but it's almost like I am, and I get it for free.
Is that what it is? Yeah. I think that
no, it's not. It's not. I try not to do that to you. Like, I hope our conversations are more like two ways. And
most definitely, you're like my coach too, and I don't pay you either. So
amazing. Yeah, it's what do you call it? Bartering, right? Unofficial bartering. Yeah. But you and I were chatting a couple of weeks ago, and you talked about this presentation that you did around the topic of wanting. Learning to want more. And then we started talking about that when we were just chatting, and I thought this could be a good podcast episode because I don't think people are thinking about this topic, right? So, well, first of all, why did that become a topic important enough for you to develop a whole presentation and talk around it?
Great question. So I was noticing with my clients, whether they're even executives at large companies or some of the project managers I work with in workshops and stuff like that, when I would ask them about things that they want, what some of their dreams were, they would always come back with things. First of all, their first thought was, I don't know. And for someone who's like in charge of a company and where it's going, or in charge of a project and where it's going, that seemed to be a little weird to me because they're managing other people's stuff, right? Whether it's the corporate stockholders or whatever, or the project that they're trying to put out. And they're not managing their own. As a matter of fact, they're not even thinking about what that is and what it is that they want. And then I remembered, wait a minute, that used to be me. I remember having the corporate job and allowing the dollars that I made or the people that I was around all the time to kind of tell me what I could want rather than what I maybe truly did.
So people are thinking right now as they're listening, I mean, I want more money. I want to go on vacation. what do you mean? I mean, there are things that we want. I mean, right now I want a chicken sandwich, but sounds delicious right now, but what do you mean? I mean, what category of wanting is this? And how can we get into that headspace? It's get out of the wanting just chicken sandwiches.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, those short range kind of things, right? Helen Keller said, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision.
Ooh, deep.
Yeah. And you hear things like those without vision shall perish and think whatever, those kinds of things. I didn't ever know what those meant. And as I started to look into wanting, I realized that somehow got a bad rap. And so for me, I'll speak for myself instead of the proverbial we. I started just wanting things I knew how to get eventually. So I know how to get more money, if I'm at the whatever level in a company that I am. I know the next way to get more money is to get to the next rung on the ladder that they present in front of me. And I also know, okay, well, maybe if I don't think that's possible, I can go get a job at another company where they might pay me more money. And so I ended up chasing the next rung on the ladder rather than looking at what I really want beyond the dollars. So I take people through a wheel of wants. Like, what do you want beyond wealth, right? And usually health is right up there. Right? What do you want in terms of looking at it this way? What's going to make you feel fulfilled at the end of the day? And then what's going to make you feel fulfilled at the end of the day 6 months from now, a year from now? Because hopefully that changes. We look out at the horizon and we know that as we get closer to it, the horizon moves. Right. And so as we want more and we start to take those steps, we may decide that what I thought I wanted 3 years from now, I don't want 3 years from now because it's closer. But the wanting part is what keeps us moving forward. And what actually makes your brain catch on fire, not literally, that would be painful.
That's not what you want.
Is when your heart wants something and your brain doesn't know how to get it yet. And so many times when I ask people to write down a list of what they want, I ask them, how many of these things on the list do you not know how to get yet? And most of them will say, well, none of them. It's just going to take some time. Albert Einstein said, never go to bed or never go to sleep without giving your brain a problem to solve. Mm-hmm. If you already know how to do all that stuff, you're wasting your sleep. Right. Come on, get your brain moving. See what's out there. See what's possible.
Now, Tracy, that reminds me of one of my favorite hacks for getting my brain moving. And everybody listening right now, a big part of creating this podcast is having focus and having creativity and having energy, and not just physical, but mental energy too. And I need to stay sharp and to be on top of my game. The trouble is, though, my old buddy coffee hasn't been keeping up. Coffee gets me all jittery and then I get a crash. It's not great. So I found myself just downing cup after cup just to keep my energy level stable. But then, like I said, comes the crash, right? I'm sure that sounds familiar. So let me tell you about a discovery I made that changed everything for me. It's called Magic Mind. This little green shot has become really my go-to in the morning, right next to my first cup of coffee. And I have to tell you, it's been nothing short of magical for me. I've been using Magic Mind for a while now, and it's become an essential part of my morning routine, which gives me a much needed energy and focus boost for the day ahead. So one of the things I love about Magic Mind, it's ingredients. They're all natural. It includes matcha, which is like nature's extended release version of caffeine. I like matcha. I like matcha tea. I usually get matcha lattes at Starbucks, for example. And matcha not only has less caffeine than coffee, but also contains compounds that slow down the absorption of caffeine, which in turn prevents those energy crashes later in the day. It also has L-theanine, which is a compound that naturally reduces stress levels. So it's a more balanced and healthier way to get your morning kickstart. And now the best part is after taking Magic Mind for about 3 days, that's when I started, I noticed some good changes, almost incredible changes. I started feeling more focused, more productive, and less stressed. And my energy levels stay consistent throughout the day. And I've been able to cut down my coffee consumption even. So without missing the benefits of caffeine. So it's a win-win for me. I really believe that Magic Mind can make a significant difference to anyone who's struggling with energy levels or productivity or focus. That's why I'm excited to bring this to you. And Magic Mind has given me a unique link and discount code for my listeners. So you can get up to 50% off your first subscription within the next 10 days, or 20% off your one-time purchase at any time. So just head over to magicmind.com/PMP. And I know I talked about magicmind.co in previous episodes, but they just let me know they also have magicmind.com as a domain. So you can go to magicmind.com/PMP and use the code PMP at checkout. So remember, the 50% off only lasts for 10 days from the publishing of this episode. So go ahead and take advantage of that. But if you missed it, don't worry, because you still get 20% off a purchase at any time. So if you're seeking a better, healthier way to boost your energy and productivity levels, give Magic Mind a shot. I'm sure you'll love it just as much as I do. And don't forget to use the code PMP at magicmind.com/PMP to get your discount. Thanks, Magic Mind, for being a partner, for supporting the show. Now, Tracy, as you know, the tagline of this podcast is "Life is a project and you are the manager." And I think this came to me in a second, actually. I was thinking, okay, what's the tagline for this? And I didn't think about this it just came to me. Because at that time, I was, I was really in my job and when talking to people, really making a distinction between operations and projects, right? So for those uninitiated, operations is like an assembly line. You're making a widget and you make that day in and day out, and there's no end in sight. And the doing better at that is just making more widgets at a lower cost. But basically, you're just fine tuning a machine that's running, right? While projects is you have a beginning, you have an end, and you're creating something unique, right? And at some point, you're going to check this off as done. And we tend to think of life. This is you can correct me, or you can just maybe adjust my position here based on your experience. But I think we tend to look at life as operations, right? And even the way we talk about things, for example, I can say that, talking about my grandpa who passed away, right? So, grandpa used to, let me keep the change when I went to the store to buy bread, and the wording we use, he used to, it's like this thing that never ended that he did, when in fact, he did it 27 times. I'm just guessing, So life is discrete, even the things we think that are ongoing, they are discrete. And I think if we start to look at things like what we want, and if we start to look at life as, hey, I'm here for a set amount of time, I have X number of heartbeats, what do I want to achieve? What's the deliverable here, Then as project managers, we have the tool set, with the toolkit to kind of work backwards from there and this, okay, what to do next, right? We know we have the tools. We can break them down. We can, do all sorts of, techniques to actually get there. But I think people are not thinking that way. Does that sound true?
Yeah, no, and I love that. I thought that was genius. Yeah, I think most people are living their life like they're in operations rather than managing projects. And there's every role that you play in your life is like a project. You being a dad, you being a husband, right? The roles that you play, that's those can each be projects. What I believe that what you do is to support who you want to be. Right. And in that progression, the B part, people, I think what happens is people get confused. People always ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's a silly question. I mean, what are you going to say, a giraffe? I don't know. We're going to be a human being. There's no other B to it. The question is really two. What do you want to do? Because a what is something you do. And who do you want to be? The who do you want to be and who you want to become can never be taken away from you. But the what you do can. So if you're a concert pianist and you get your hands broken somewhere, you probably won't be able to do that anymore if That's the right? And so there's a number of roles that you can play that can be taken away from you. But who you become while you're doing it. So as you became like a world-renowned pianist, you had to have a lot of things like passion and discipline and consistency and persistence through all of those. And you always get to take that being persistent, being passionate with you wherever you go, even if you can't take your piano with you.
Right. Yeah. So can you think of more examples, maybe that you've heard from other people, or maybe even from your own experience of things or outcomes that people should consider wanting, like well, at least like the level of it, like not chicken sandwiches, but this kind of thing, let's change not the degree, not like a million chicken sandwiches, but the kind, what kind of things.
That's great. A million chicken sandwiches.
Right.
No, that's terrific, because I did the same thing. I was there. I didn't think or dream anything beyond what I could currently get. And I see a lot of people doing that. So as you bring these questions up, I have like so many thoughts in my head. I was a person who always said lately, I have more now than I ever thought I would have. I remember when I was little, just wishing I could fly on an airplane someday, right? And my dad told me, hey, Tracy, when you make $100,000 or whatever, you'll be set for the rest of your life or whatever. And so you get to these rungs on the ladder and you're like, really? This is it. And then you're thinking, okay, yeah, this is it. That's what I've been told. This is it. I mean, and I have physical things in my life, but I wanted something inside me wanted more than that, right? Like you want to make a difference in the lives of other people. Most people do, whether it's through a software product or through interactions or whatever. And so what gets you to take that step out of your comfort zone, even if you think you have everything you've ever wanted? And it's really around who you want to be. So I like to look beyond that. I remember one of my goals was to pay cash for a car, which I never knew people could do that. Right. And so I thought, okay, I want to write a check for a car. When they ask me how many payments or what I want my payments to be, I'm just going to say one. Just want to write. And so being able to do that, I was like, wait a minute, if I can do that, what else can I do? And what else can I do? And so I'm always looking for those people that are beyond where I am and that are making a difference. And so I'm on the board of the ARC of Fort Bend County. It's an association for intellectually disabled people and developmentally disabled people.
Canadian organization. It's a Canadian organization. Large, right? Yeah.
Yes, very large. Yes, it's everywhere, right? And so here we wanted to buy a building. Our office needed to move. We're in a city property and the land value has gone sky high. So the city's probably not going to renew our lease for it. Anyways, we wanted to buy a $2 million building. And so we were looking, okay, how can we do this? Where can we do? And we ended up getting 4 $500,000 donors to buy the building. So these people, and then one time we were going to go and, start the closing. And so we went into one of the donors and we said, hey, could you write us a promissory note or whatever it is that says, hey, yes, you're going to give this money to us. And he said, well, can I just write you a check? And that totally blew my mind, right? You can write a check for $500,000 to an organization, just a check. And so that's when my mind was like, you know what, that I want to be able to do that. I'm going to go for 100,000 first. Don't think it's 500,000 yet, but it's not about the money. And that's what everybody thinks it's about, the money. No, it's about the difference that you're going to make in the lives of other human beings. And so what are those things that in your heart you've always wanted to do, and yet your head has talked you out of it? And those are the things for me. Being generous, watching my grandfather who owned a store and there was a flood in our, and just be able to give food away to people and be able to get the restaurants to store their food in his big freezer because they didn't want it to go bad. Like just things like that. The generosity piece of it is big for me. Now that might not be for everybody, but what is that thing that's beyond your reach that's going to make you feel fulfilled if you can do it and accomplish it?
That's awesome. Now, I think there's a spiritual component to this, which I'm not going to get into because it's not the topic of this show. But there's a quote from Joseph Ratzinger, who was also known as a Benedict XVI. He said, you were not made for comfort, you're made for greatness. Right? And I think everybody is. And I think we have some limiting belief that I'm not Bill Gates. I'm not, I don't have that, or even worse, you blame it on your circumstances or your upbringing or your parents or, your family history or your neighborhood or the schooling that you didn't have and I think that's, it's a mindset, right? Like I think we all have, we are all like unique, right? So the contributions that we can bring to the world, nobody else can the same way, right? So in that sense, everybody has the potential to be great in different ways, right? And after you and I talked, you sent me the slides from the presentation that you did on this topic of wanting, and you talk about some myths and truths. Yeah. Now, are you able to talk about maybe what myth you think is the most damaging to, or limiting to people's personal growth and why that is?
Yeah, great question. I did a survey before I did that, and I had people answer some questions as to, do they want and why don't they want, and or what gets in the way of them wanting more. And the number one thing, and it was by about like 70% or 60% of the people said because it's selfish. I don't want to be selfish. And I thought, wow, I mean, that's incredible to me that you can say that. Yet I understand, not to get into the religious thing, but being raised in a Catholic church, I was taught in my, not that all of them are this way, that wanting like material things is selfish. And not only that, they said it's materialistic. Now, who wants to be called anything with istic on the end of it? I don't know, right? So who wants to be labeled as selfish? And so in our minds, selfish behavior is often associated with like a negative character trait, like greed or insensitive or like just disregards or disrespects people. When in fact, selfish is kind of how you're born. Like you're born and I don't know about this, but most people come out and they want to breathe. They want something, right? They want food. They want to be held. We want a lot of things. In almost any religion that I know of, the end, you're promised things, right? Like in the Bible, it talks about, in Revelation, it talks about mansions and streets paved in gold and stuff like that. And I believe that's because that's in our nature. It's to want more. And by the way, people who are selfish, quote unquote selfish, they're the ones who also take care of themselves, who know how to self-soothe, who know how to lead themselves, who know how to do a whole bunch of other things themselves. And they don't need to become a victim of circumstances. They just realize that everything that happens for me and not to me. That may be selfish. I think that's a very selfish attitude, but it's the one I have, and it's going to stay with me.
I have thoughts on this, and I think that's an excuse. I think because, like you said, we're all selfish in small ways, right? The way that we want the best parking spot, or the way that we want our kids to be smarter than the neighbor's kids, or we want whatever, right? We want the best table at the restaurant, and we don't give two thoughts about it. We don't feel bad about it. Oh yeah, awesome, got the best table, but because people are not thinking about wanting these great things that are good, right? Or have the potential of being good. It's easier to say, I don't want to be that person because that's yucky, that's selfish. When in fact, it's like, I never thought about it and I don't know the first thing about how to do that. That sounds better. It sounds more noble,
Yes.
I come from Brazil, and we like to, I remember growing up hearing a lot about, I have lots of thoughts about this. So whoever, listening right now, don't judge me for this position. It's very nuanced, but I'm going to bring it up here. But, I remember growing up hearing that the United States, they are, what is it, imperialists. And they are, that they got their money and their resources because they, maybe explored other peoples or they did evil things and wars and whatever, right? And two things to that. One is when I moved out of Brazil, and I met people from Paraguay, Uruguay, the smaller countries that surround Brazil. That's how they think about us, right? So I was like, whoa, And then the other side of it is like, so what are you saying? That my country didn't get the things that other countries have because we were just better, because we're good? No, just because we couldn't get, we couldn't organize our evil enough to get those things. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think the whole selfish, it's just an excuse and it's a cop out, when the fact is like, you never thought about it, or you don't know how to get there, or you didn't think it was for you, or it was reachable. And so how do you get out of that mindset? How do you, start thinking larger, thinking about being great?
That's a good question. A lot of people think that there is a kind of magic formula. Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I use, like, there's a wheel of life out there, but I just call it a wheel of once because it usually has like 8 different areas that you can look into, like money and finance, your health and your fitness. What do you want to do for fun? What do you want to do for your career or work? Kind of environment or community do you want to live in? Stuff like that. Friends and family. What kind of relationships do you want to have? So a lot of times I think we focus on, when it comes to wanting, like things, we focus on things. And then of course we end up with this thought of, we don't want to be materialistic, so we don't want things. And I loved it. What you were just saying brought up another thought. People who, say, oh, well, gosh, I don't want $1 million or $1 billion. That just brings so many problems. I just have to worry about money all the time. And so I had a millionaire when I was in my 20s. I said that, actually, like, there's just too much work to get to $1 million. And he said to me, he said, Trace, I want to be respectful of what you believe. He said, but here's the thing. If you choose to go and make $1 million, just try it out. You can always go back.
That's right.
And I thought, yeah, I can, right? Like, I can become a CEO of a company. If I don't like it, I can always go back to whatever it was I wanted. And it like blew the lid off of that excuse. But so I say this to say, hey, it's not just about the money. It's about the experiences in life. And what are those? What do you want your relationship to look like with your special someone or someone's, or the people that you love? What do you want to learn? How do you want to contribute to those around you? How do you want to connect to the world or something bigger than yourself, whether it's religion or, I don't know, nature, those types of things? What do you want in those areas? You can also want in those areas. And so that's really what I help people do, is to say, hey, listen, first of all, it's not selfish to want. It's what allows us to do amazing things. And there's a law of prospection, it's called. A lot of people think that your past, as to your point earlier, the circumstances, where I grew up, all that is what determines your potential or your future. Well, psychology shows us that's not true at all. Your future is determined by the law of prospection. Prospection is, as you look out into your future, where is your future self a year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now? If you can envision a compelling future, where your head and your heart are aligned. Now, what's going to happen is your heart's going to say, oh my gosh, I want this. And your head's going to say, yeah, but you're never going to get it. Nah, it's not possible. I mean, look at where you came from. Listen, where you came from doesn't matter. It is really what you want, and that law of prospection that pulls us forward and that defines who we are going to be 3 years from now. And if you can develop that want enough, and it doesn't have to be huge. I mean, I'm hoping it's bigger than a chicken sandwich, though, Cesar. Come on. But right now, that might be good. Right. What does that look like 3 years from now? What do you want to do? I mean, for you and your family, what do you want 3 or 5 years from now? I mean, your girls are going to be older. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how I've changed. Like my ideas around these things. I remember before I had kids, before I was. I'm not saying I'm mature now, but when I was more immature, I don't know. I can't even think. But back then, I remember thinking, okay, yeah, my kids, they're definitely gonna have to go to college, university, get an education, and do all these things. And I'm not gonna, they're gonna have to own a home before they get married. They're gonna have to have all these things in place, because that's how I kind of grew up with, and then as you have these humans that are, looking up to you all the time and mimicking your behavior, right? And talking like you and walking like you, I changed, what I want for them, which I'm going to get to what I want for me. That I want them to be good people, right? And that may involve getting higher education or not. You can be a good person as a plumber or as a carpenter, as a stay-at-home mom. In fact, you may have more opportunities to be a good person as a plumber because you see more people. You can't, than being like the CEO that everybody looks up to and is like, they don't like you, and but then that makes me think, okay, for them to be good people, I can't not be that model for them. So I have to be better as a person, right? So they have that model. They can always like, hey, okay, that's how Dad used to do things, and worked out, and so it changed the way I think about things. From I want to have this car, or I want to go on this trip, or I just want to be good, and the interesting thing is that the other things tend to follow, because if you're aiming to be that person, right, then you tend to do better at work, right? Like in trying to be a better person, I become a better manager of people, right? Which which creates more opportunities for me within my job, for example, because he's a good leader, for example, right? So, but that's not my goal. That I'm not doing this because I want that job. It's just coming because of the lofty, high level goal that I set for myself, because of this need I have for my kids to be good people. So that's where my mind is right now, and it is not necessarily something very specific that I want in terms of like, okay, I can point to it, but it is enough that I know I'm not there yet. I need to keep working on it, and in worst case scenario, when I die, I'm just a better person than I was the day before I died, and that's good,
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought up two things that in my mind, one is I love what you said because, and when you had that mindset shift and being able to pinpoint when that was, right. But the formula be times do equals have. And when you focus on being a good person, for instance, and you multiply, you you add that as a factor to what you do, you get to have more. And you don't even know why you're having more because the work that you're doing is just the work that anybody could do in your brain. But who you are attached to what you do. And if what you do isn't supporting who you want to be and become, don't do it. Because if your B is a 0 and your do is a million, you still got nothing in terms of the have.
Right.
Right.
So how's that formula again? B plus do equals have. Okay.
Times do.
Times two.
Right. Because if either one of those is a 0,
then
if you're sitting there and you're contemplating, oh, I want to be this and I want to be, but you're not doing anything, you're not going to have anything either. Right. So being able to multiply those. And so what that allowed you to, the other thing was you said you wanted to be a good person. And then I also loved what you said. And that's kind of just not a specific thing, kind of a nebulous thing out there. The word good is defined by the science of axiology that I have been professing for years, right? The word good gets really nebulous because, you can say, I want to be a good person. And so you have some things of what that might mean in your mind. And people think good means, not great. What somebody will say, not evil, not bad, right?
Right.
But the definition that they have of good doesn't support things. People say, oh, it's good if it's beneficial. It's good if it adds value. But that's not true because we can say, oh, look, they're a good criminal.
Right. Yes. You can,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the word good and the definition of good can be really powerful if everyone agrees to that. Mm-hmm. And so the definition of good that Dr. Hartman came up with is a thing is good when it has all of the attributes needed to fulfill its purpose.
And then you need to find what the purpose is in order to define good for you. Yeah. Okay.
First, you need to know what the purpose is, right? So when you say, hey, I want to be a good person, what's the purpose? And I heard multiple purpi. Is that the plural of purposes? No, right? You want in the roles that you play, you want to be a good father. You want to be a good example. You want to be a good role model, right? And so that purpose of I want to be successful in this role, that can be a purpose. Okay, so what kind of attributes do you need? And this allows you to get a little more specific on, okay, what kind of attributes do you need? So in order to be a good dad, since that was our example, what are some of the attributes that you aspire?
Right. So it's and that also changes, right? Because when you have babies, it means one thing. When you have toddlers, and now I have one teenager.
Because your purpose changed, right? Purpose changed.
It totally changes, yeah. So what does it mean to be a good father, to a teenager versus a baby, right? A baby needs you to be up at night, walking around the house, and a baby carrier listening to a podcast, Not that it happened to me, but I've heard,
Oh, no. Yeah.
And now, when you have an adult kid or a teenager, they need different things from you. So you kind of have to adapt. So, so you're asking me specifically, I would say that it's right now, my take on what being a good parent means is to, to provide a mix of support and unconditional love, knowing that you're there for them, while at the same time inspiring them to greatness, right? And to do the right things and be good in the world. And that sometimes may seem like it's a conflict because, if I'm always supporting them and let's say they don't want to get a job when they should, Am I gonna just, hey, you can just live here forever? Is that real support or not, right? So you start having these conflicts, like, okay, what does love mean? Does it mean like just going along with whatever, supporting anything, or agreeing upon a set of parameters of what is good, what is truth, what is all that, and then having that conversation with your child and say, okay, based on what you and I know to be true, this path you're choosing, if I go along with you, I'm not supporting you, I'm not loving you.
Right. Right.
But then again, you need to, it's complicated, when you ask me, what does it mean to be a good parent? But
you came up with some attributes right away, Cesar. You came up with supportive, loving, inspiring, right? Generous can be one, but you can also, be disciplined and determined and focused, and help them be the same towards the goals that they might have.
Right.
So a thing is good when it has all the attributes needed to fulfill its purpose.
Nice.
If we don't take the time to look at the purpose, which is what the Wheel of Once kind of exercise is about. What is your purpose in each of these areas? Because I don't believe that we find a single purpose in life. There may be a few people on the planet that do, but we don't. Most people don't. Right. And your purpose is going to change, because your purpose is out there, is the ideal. It's out there on the horizon. And as you get closer to the horizon, it changes.
Right.
And so periodically we got to go out there and we've got to look, but focusing on what you want in the future, rather than being constrained by what already happened in the past, you get to use your creativity and your imagination and that sense of purpose to create a more fulfilling and successful life. And so that's why I love to encourage people to want to stretch beyond things. And by the way, it doesn't have to be big. I had one of my clients, he said, you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to learn how to drive a standard stick shift car. Great. Put it down. Yeah. Or whatever. I've always wanted to learn how to do a handstand. Terrific. Put that on your Wheel of Once too. It doesn't have to be something grand, but when he does those things, when he learns how to do those things, he's also going to gain the attributes of practicing, being persistent, being consistent in order to learn how to do those and have those skills. And he's going to be proud of himself. And that's what you want, because when you have that pride, now you have more courage and more things to build upon to get to the next want on the list, and to be able to see your future self. By the way, so many people say, well, yeah, I don't know what I want my future self to look like. I mean, I don't know what I want to be doing 3 years from now. This isn't a goal that you have to hit. This is about providing your brain, your head, and your heart an aligned direction towards who you want to be and what you want to experience.
Amazing. And I believe, and I've seen this happen, that the universe, or whatever, whatever you want to name it, they accommodate to your size, right? So if you grow, then more runway is given to you, right? It might look like you're out of choices right now, but if you keep working on these things, opportunities kind of materialize, and things that maybe were always there, but you couldn't see them, right?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Okay, so I hope this is inspiring to folks listening. Tracy, do you offer anything? I think you do, like some sort of assessment or debrief or some sort of course to help with this.
Yeah, I do. The first thing I want to do, and we can put it in the show notes, is I want to offer the listeners who want to want more, a worksheet that I have out there. It's a workbook that you can walk through that wheel of once. It gives you some thoughts and some ideas. And so we'll put that in the show notes. It'll be the Wheel of Once worksheet, and just download it and walk through it. It'll walk you through each of those areas and hopefully help you want a little more. Buddha once said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. And so to the point that you just said, yeah, I can offer a free assessment too. There'll be a link at the end of the workbook. If you want to do that, you don't have to. I just want to encourage people to want, but your thoughts typically do get in your way. And so this assessment actually measures how you think, not your personality, or it doesn't put you in a bucket. It measures how you think. And then we can sit down and we can look at your results and say, hey, do these thoughts get in your way? That's okay. You have these other thoughts, these other perspectives that you can take that are going to open up your vision, allow you to tap into that curiosity and creativity and imagination that maybe you haven't been using lately. So that's just another step if they want to take that. But yeah, excited to talk about this. So thanks for the opportunity.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let me see here what the link is going to be for this episode. This is episode 142 or 43. You know what? I don't know. But if you go to pmforthemasses.com, look up this episode with Tracy. I think it's either 142 or 143. So pmforthemasses.com/142 or /143. And you'll find the links to the show notes and maybe a quote or two that we shared today, from Buddha, from Ratzinger, from some of the other folks that Tracy has there. I don't know if you memorize these, but that's amazing. And then, I encourage you to download the Wheel of Once worksheet and give it a go. And if you feel so inclined, you can get in touch with Tracy via the link there in the worksheet. Tracy, again, my friend, thank you so much. Always so nice to talk to you. I always leave our conversations inspired and feeling better about humanity.
Aw, wow, what a nice thing to say. Cesar, you've been a great friend for many years, and I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
pmforthemasses.com